welcome to the Beacon Encourage, powered by Beacon Life Church. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel, like us on Facebook, and follow us on Instagram. This is Beacon Encourage, your weekly dose of courage.
Be all that God called and created you to be. This is the Beacon Encourage, the Beacon Empowerment. Simply be. Very good morning, ladies and gentlemen. So glad to be coming your way yet again. This is Dr. M. The Desire, and we are powered by Beacon Life Church. This is the Beacon Encourage, and we are coming your way to bless you yet again this Wednesday morning with some wonderful, wonderful stuff. We are shooting this week from Detroit in Michigan, here in the United States, and I'm so delighted to have my very good friend, Mr. Juan, joining us this morning. Great to have you, sir.
Oh, thank you.
You are welcome
Good
to the
be
Beacon
here.
Encourage.
Right.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Remember, if you're joining us for the first time, please do touch the subscription button, find the notification bell, join our cyber family so that whenever this comes out, you're able to receive our content in real good time. So Juan, let's talk, or rather Juan, that's the right way to say it. Mm-hmm. Let's begin right at the beginning and take a moment and talk to us about yourself.
All right. My name is Juan Nelims, resident of Detroit, Michigan. Been 43 years old, been here all my life. So much to say, but I'll just give you my occupation.
Yes.
I am an educator.
Yes.
Been an educator for the past 22 years
Mm-hmm.
in the public school system.
Yes.
In Detroit. I have a wonderful wife. We've been married for 18 years.
Wonderful. Congratulations on that.
Thank you. Thank
Yes.
you. We have 2 kids. My wife and I met actually right here at this church.
Yes.
Doing volunteering together actually at a local middle school.
Yes.
And so that's where I started off in material science engineering, and that was my segue into being interested in education
Yes.
by volunteering. And so as a freshman in college, I had the opportunity to volunteer. I had the opportunity to see how schools and communities work together, and I decided to, pursue that as a career. And so, I've been doing that as my career. Again, I have two kids, 2 boys. One's 16. The other's 13. My youngest is 13. On top of doing all that, I'm also a children's book author.
Oh, wow.
I'm also I'm an instructor at the collegiate level, University of Michigan, Dearborn.
Okay.
At one point in life, I was a hip hop artist. Still do hip hop as well.
Once hip hop, always hip hop.
Yeah. And then also, I teach a class here at the church,
Yes.
African American history.
Okay.
So I've been doing that for the past year. Yeah, for the past year. We're going into our second year actually, and I teach teach Sunday school classes here as well for high school students here at the church. So that's pretty much who I am.
Quite a profile. But I'm fascinated by the way material science gets combined into African American history.
Okay. Yeah. So African American history. So I always grew up with a fascination for history. That's thanks to my parents. My mother, at a very early age, she would there was always books around the house about Black history. There were different plays and stuff that she would take me to, and I was just always fascinated about it. And so that's something I was always interested in. I became a believer at the age of 16, and so just fascinated with history. Period. One of the outside the Bible, one of the first books I read about the Bible was a book called The Bible as History. And so just seeing how the Bible confirms history, not the other way around, history confirms the Bible, but seeing how the Bible is legitimately seen.
And that's true about science too.
Science as well. Various parts. So that's always been my history. When I made the decision to go into material science, it wasn't really like a passion or anything. I just remember I was a junior in high school, and I was sitting, and somebody did a presentation about material science engineering.
Yes.
And I was like, wow, that sounds fascinating. Always just interested in how things break down and over time, and when just know the science behind. Like, I know exactly what's going on with your car just because I know how many miles, and after this many miles, this is what breaks down. So those are things that, I found that part of it interesting, and I decided, I said, hey, I like to pursue that, and so I successfully got into the college engineering at Wayne State, and it wasn't a lot of people in material science. It was like one of those fields that a lot of people wasn't going into at the time, and I think on campus there was only 2 of us at the time, but in that particular field. But the college engineering had a lot of people in it. Matter of fact, it was a few people from this church. I think it was Aubrey and Derek. Was it Derek? Yeah, it was. But anyway, it was 2 people from this church that was in engineering, and they kind of. I think that's how I kind of really. Met like a lot of people. I think I already knew the youth pastor here, and just having those guys there, and when I was talking to them about thinking about leaving, they wasn't saying, "Oh, you shouldn't do it." They were encouraging, for that. So I didn't feel bad about switching majors like that. But so going into education, that still fulfilled. I was curious about material science. I was curious about the material world and everything, and so that curiosity still stems into education. And then we talk about history, I think it's all a scientific process when you're analyzing history. That's true. Or if you're analyzing science, it's still the same. It still has a historical. It has a historical, but it still, it still has a process. And then just knowing just the contributors to the sciences, especially engineering, the contributions by Black people, on the continent as well as in America, and then just the contributions that are still being implemented by Black people. That's always, because it's not talked about. That's something that I like to, even in my history classes, to talk about the things that may be hidden in our history. So beautiful.
We're gonna talk time and talk a little bit more on both of those, but let's begin with the history. Okay. If someone is crossing paths with Black America for the first time, whatever part of the world they've come from, what would be your quick profile on what Black American history looks like?
Oh man, I would say Black American history, very rich, very resilient. I believe that when we talk about Black history, it's a testament to just how God has sustained us for so long. When you go back into our history, Black people have always been spiritual, in the sense of having a connection with God. And so, really talk about that resilience. One of the things that I love to bring up is that, even though Christianity was used as a way to kind of against Black people, it's so interesting to see how just even in our earliest history in America, we were able to, and I believe guided by the Holy Spirit, to be able to uncover the truths, even though the truths may have been couched in racism or anything like that. And so there's parts in history where they talk about Black people who would leave. It was illegal for Black people to read, and they would leave the plantations at night. And there's a book by Rabbitow called Slave Religion. And so he talks about with some of the narratives how they would go into the forest at night, undercover at night, and they would take blankets that they would soak in water, and they would put them up on the trees because it was like soundproofing. And so they would make these booths where it'd be soundproof, and they would discuss the hidden meanings, like that they wasn't being taught. And those who didn't know how to read, they would read scriptures, they would talk about, they would pray, all the things that they couldn't do under the masters, the slave masters' gaze. And so, and you hear things, it's these things that those who were enslaved in America, what they would talk about. They would talk about things that were like deep in the Bible, like years of Jubilee. This is something that the slave masters didn't teach them. This is something that they learned themselves about the Jubilees and other stuff like that. And so, talking about these things, Frederick Douglass, he says that this is mid 1800s where he says that he prefers the Christianity of Christ rather than the Christianity that was being taught by the slave masters. So for them to be able to make that distinction, they knew some things. And so I say all that to say, to make that short, I would say that, black people in America have always been resilient. And I believe that God, just looking at our history, one of the reasons I'm intrigued by history, we can see how God has guided us and preserved us, and I think it's the James Weldon Johnson, the Black National Anthem that they voice and sing. You get into like the later verses of that song. He talks about the God of our weary years. We can't forget you. We can't get drunk with the world, and it's really pertinent for the day. It's like, as we achieve, as we grow, we can't forget the God that brought us so far, and so that's what I would talk about those things, and you can see there's a concerted effort to hide our history and to replace our history with, when you look at the media, the media portrays black people in very dishonest ways, and I think that sometimes you have something
very unfortunate. Huh?
Yeah, you have these stereotypes that's put out, and so you have something called when a stereotype is put out, especially when it's pumped through media, people who maybe have no connection with black people in America, they may believe it, and then the most unfortunate thing is that when the people who these stereotypes are talking, disaffectionate about, it's unfortunate when they believe, when we believe those stereotypes that's put out. And so I think that's another reason why, just the history is so important, is that, to be able to kind of dispel some of those stereotypes and know the source of it and why it's being put out. And
that's
so,
true.
That's the other side of it. So
because history in proper perspective then helps to build the future and to work into destiny, because we can't reach out to go where we're going if we don't have an understanding of what history has been like. Right. Okay, great. Walking out of history, as an educator, I know that education is a powerful tool and a special part of human development, whether black or otherwise. Just talk to us a little bit about the impact of education, especially in your community and those you're involved with.
Yeah, so education is very important. At one point, education was cutting edge, right?
Yes.
And that means that getting an education, learning with the latest theories, with the latest modes of learning, that prepare you for life outside of school. That was important to get that. It gave you a leg up on those who were not educated. Having an educated class of people is important because, again, the true nature of education is to prepare people to be independent learners. Because one of the things that if you do a good job as an educator, the learner, the student would know that the school is not the only place that you can learn, and
that's true.
That's the
a good friend of mine wrote a book that says, "Don't let school get in the way of your education."
Your education, yep. That's the thing, and so schools, just into our history, just in our past, schools have always been a place in our communities. A lot of schools were started by churches, but there's another book called The Price They Paid by Vivian Morris Gunn, and she talks about, like, in America, like, the first schools, public schools, were started by like black people, like early. They knew that it was important to be able to read. But I think the most important thing was that it was a community effort. It wasn't just the education and success of our students is too daunting of a task for the teacher to handle alone. And so when you see in our past, like, the teachers were an extension of the community, of the family. And so if I know I'm an extension of your family, I'm gonna teach you as such, right? I'm gonna make sure you have all the things you need to to prepare you not only to be able to be successful in this classroom, but outside of the classroom. and that learning again, being able to teach the critical thinking skills where life. A good friend of mine, a mentor of mine, says that life is a learning laboratory, right?
Yes.
That's Dennis Talbot. Yeah.
Yes.
So literally, life is your school. The building itself is a place to get that knowledge, but your whole existence is a place for learning. So, yeah.
Wonderful. Ladies and gentlemen, this morning we are talking with Mr. Juan Nelims. Yes, Nelims. Beautiful, beautiful. Right here from Detroit in Michigan, and I do believe that his story is a blessing to you as it is to me here listening to him walking us through the journey and some things that God has done in his life. Do remember to touch the subscription button if you're joining us for the first time. Find that notification bell and connect with us on this cyber family. I want to ask you the question on parenting. I know you have 2 teenage boys, and that's quite a tough space for parenting. I have 2 girls in my house, and I can imagine, from your perspective, talk to us about how parenting is going and a few highlight nuggets that you can give to young parents.
So I think like education.
Yes.
Parenting is an all-in effort. So from other family members to friends to community, I don't want to say it's a responsibility, but they all have major inputs in the upbringing of our young people. And so what I would say, just parenting for me has been a blessing and has been an exercise in patience. And I guess we'll get into this, but the same constellation.
I saw a wall sign that my patience has been tested and I've been negative.
Yeah. So and I think that's the thing. Like as a teacher, I can teach a student, and then they go home for the night, for the day, or whatever. Right? Now with your own kids, they have they see you. When you are making declarations of education and teaching, and when you're doing it, but you with them all the time. When you get off from work, so they see the real you. Yes. And so I think that that's one thing that I think parenting does. Yes. It teaches you patience. It teaches you how forgiving you have to be, and it teaches you just humility and how you have to be someone of integrity as well. Because again, it's easy to be, the person at school as a teacher to be, people look up to me and blah blah. But at home, if you lack integrity or if you're not completely vested in the well-being of your kids, there's going to be some situations, and so I'll say that. The second thing is that it is a partnership as well. I'm fortunate enough to be married while I'm raising my kids, and so it's so important that I think kids do have that balance, because some of the things that I think about, especially parenting boys, it's balanced with my wife's perspective as well. So yeah, I think that that just it's definitely I don't have a manual. I can't say when you do this, do that. When that happens with that, you have to be any situation that there is, you have to be prepared to react any way that you can, because you're going you may think you're preparing in one kind of way, but you're not. You really have to be patient.
That's true.
Rely on your instincts, rely on your your faith.
Yeah.
Rely on the Holy Spirit. All those different things. And I think the what I have learned is that our kids are like our apprentices.
That's true.
Just like how if I'm going to do anything, it's powerful to have your kids with you.
That's true.
So if I'm going somewhere to speak, I had the opportunity to visit.
It's a mentoring relationship.
It's a mentoring relationship.
Yes.
I had the opportunity to visit Kenya for the first time, 2022, and my youngest son went with me, and that was important, I think, for him. It is a mentorship, because I was a recipient of mentorship outside of the home, but one of the things that we, when I say we put a lot on the teachers, like
Yes.
we want the teachers to give individual attention to each student. We want them to know all the, you know, with the likes and the interest of each student is. We want to get individual feedback. We want, you know, all these different things that we want for the teachers to do. Honestly, it's baked in for the parents to do that as well. You know, so as a parent, you know, it's important that I do know, because I'm giving the individual attention to my students. So, you know, and it's good that if teachers do it, but you know, just with the amount of students that you have, they may not be able to do it effectively. But as a parent, I'm able to kind of really, you know, do that and you know my students, and you know, again, give them that individualized experiences. So whatever it is that I'm doing, you know, I want to take my kids with me. You know, if I'm, you know, if I'm walking somewhere, if I'm working out, I'm taking them with me. If I, you know, because that's just how, as human beings, is how we learn. You know, we learn by participation. You know, and so to be able to participate with your parent in certain things, you know, that's a powerful way to learn as well. So
my people have a proverb that the fruit never falls so far from the tree.
That's right.
Yeah, because then he's most definitely going to be like you in many ways, because he was raised under your care. Yeah. Okay, beautiful. What about the man question? I mean, being a strong man, a strong Christian man, discipled man in the city of Detroit, a black man, I think there's a lot of pressure, a lot of understanding, a lot of balance, a lot of truth, and you know, justice and stuff like that. Talk to us a little bit about really your perspective of what it means to be a man in a season such as this.
Yeah. No, I think it's the same thing. Is that you know, oftentimes, you know, for a nice little spat of time, you know, there were a lot of single parent homes. I would say there may be still a lot of single parent homes within the city, and among, you know, black community. I will say that I've seen a definite, just with my friend group, when I think about how like some of my friends grew up, and maybe we'll talk a little bit more about that, but we grew up, I think maybe one of us had their father that lived with them in the house. You know, everybody else just lived with their moms and stuff. So oftentimes the examples that you have of parenting is not coming from the house. It's coming from maybe seeing somebody else's father relationship, or what you see on television. You know, and unfortunately, I came up during a time where, you know, hip hop was very popular. Things, and unfortunately, a lot of the examples that you saw, it wasn't very good examples. It was like it was a one-sided view of what manhood really was. And so I think as I, you know, as a husband, as a father, I see that man, you know, being a man is not a one-trick role. You know, sometimes I do have to be the lion. You know what I'm saying? Sometimes I have to be the lamb as well. You know, so sometimes I have to be the mirror, or sometimes I, you know, so at any given time, you know, you have to be whatever the situation calls.
The tender warrior.
Yeah. I mean, whatever the situation calls. It's like, I mean, it may be something I have to be that I haven't unlocked yet.
That's true.
In who I am, you know. So sometimes I have to be the scholar that knows the answer. Sometimes I have to be the student that don't know anything. You know what I'm saying? So, so yeah, I think that what's liberating about that is that as a man, like, you know, I'm not forced to have to be one way.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? Like I'm free to roam all aspects of my humanity. You know what I'm saying? So all aspects of my emotions, all aspects of my fears, and you know, I'm able to roam all that, you know, and not hold anything, you know, in, or not looking at, oh, that's not manly for me to do that, you know. But yeah, any situation that I find myself in as a man, I don't have to define it as one single thing. And so I think that in the past, growing up, you know, you just felt like, you know, as a man, I can't do this. You know, as a man, I can't do that. As a man, I gotta be, you know. It's like, you know, you don't have to be that. Like, I just remember like being a father holding my sons when they were younger. It's like I had to, you know, I had to be. So, you know, I had a daughter that was stillborn, and you know, being there for my wife and just going through my emotions and stuff like that. You know, so I think being a man in Detroit, raising young men, being a husband, it's not a prescribed way you have to be.
Yes.
You know, you just have to be ready to be whatever you need to be at any given time. So.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Wonderful. Juan, let me ask you what I call my favorite question on these sets, which is the testimony question. The Lord has done some things in your life at some point, and I know you can share a lot, but just pick one of those and share with us a beautiful testimony that has marked your life.
So I think I'll go back to when I became a Christian. I'll go even a little bit before that. I grew up on the east, what they call it Midtown now, but it's the east side of Detroit.
Okay.
And where I grew up, there was a lot of kids. You know, a lot of people to play with. You know, playtime was epic.
Yes.
Right? Go outside. There was all kind of young people that lived there. Right. So as a young kid, we actually moved to the west side of Detroit.
Okay.
So I moved to a space that was that was just old people. Nobody. It was like no kids. I was you know, very, very lonely. You know, for about 3 years, I was very lonely. You know, because I didn't have. I mean, I had friends at school, but I didn't have friends at home. You know, in my neighborhood. You know, and so I remember just praying, like, you know, Lord, you know, I need some friends. You know, and I was thinking the type of friends I was thinking about was, you know, it wasn't the type. I don't think I had a great understanding what friendship really was, and so I can say that you know, during that time I had a chance encounter to meet like some very good friends that I'm still friends with now to this day, and so with those friendships, I'm in the middle of writing a screenplay about this because I do believe that the friendship, we don't talk. I mean, we talk a lot about like mentorship and parents, but I think the influence that friends have, you know, having a positive tribe or a positive friend group, how important that is. And I think that when I look at from the ages of 13 to 18, there's a lot of development that went on with me, and my friends were right there with me. So I just remember I became a Christian at the age of 16. And so it happened because I remember I went to church with one of my friends. We both started going to this church. We would walk up to the church in our neighborhood, and we were sitting there, and just from the point, like, I mean, what happened with me is that the youth pastor, he challenged us. You know, he was like, yeah, you know, tell us about Jesus, and he challenged us to read the Bible.
Yes.
And so that challenge is something that we took seriously. And so we went from being friends that was in the basement playing video games and making music to, you know, we would like, all right, let's read this, you know. And so we read the Bible together. You know, we challenged each other. We challenged each other about, what did you read? What did you know? And we challenged each other to take a relationship with Jesus Christ, take it seriously. And so I would say that, you know, my testimony is that there was so much that could have happened to me during that time that didn't happen because I had some guardrails and I had a positive friend group. And so when we look at like some of my other, you know, close friends at that time, just some of the things that they went through, and that, you know, having a relationship with Jesus at during the teenage years. You know, it set me up for the rest of my life, really. And so I would encourage, like, you know, young people. I you know, with my kids all the time, I always tell them my story. You know, I go deep into like some of the things that I saw in real time, how I was, you know, God was snatching me out of situations and preserving me and giving me a group of friends that was able to encourage me to you know. And so I would tell any, you know, parent, any young person, especially young man, like, you know, have a relationship, you know, have that positive friend group, because it's so much that can, you know, during those years, I believe that the enemy really makes sport taking out young people.
That's true.
You know, it's a verse. I think it's Peter. First Peter 5, is it 5:8, where it says Satan roams around like a roaring lion, seeking who he can devour. And so I used to watch a lot of Animal Planet when I was younger, and I used to like watching the lions attack.
Yes.
And when you see lions attack, the female lions do the hunting, and they usually get the young, or they wildebeest, whatever. They usually get the young ones that's not paying attention, and they'll hide, whatever. They'll even set up little, stampedes, and they'll catch the young one. And when they catch them and subdue them, then that's when the big lion comes. The male lion comes and usually He gets first dibs, and he dies face first, and it's usually into the stomach. Because that's the soft part, and that's where. So I was reading looking at some stuff on television. That's where the undigested, the vegetation, the digested vegetation that they eat. They start with that, and they just devour. They leave it bare, just barely enough for the hyenas to eat. And now when I look at how the Bible uses that analogy, I'm like, man. Satan is not playing with our young people.
That's true.
It's not just like I want to make you make a mistake.
It's vicious.
Make a mistake, and nah. I want to take you out. Because you at a part where you may have some unrealized potential. You can do a lot of damage to the kingdom of darkness as a young teenager and things like that. And and they like pick you off. And I see it like with students, I see it with young people all the time, and I thank God that He allowed me not only to survive that time, but also to be utilized. I said I became a Christian at the age of 16. I recorded my first song at the age of 17.
Wow.
First album.
Hip hop.
Yeah, hip hop. Yeah, and it was hip hop that glorified God. And you may have heard of people like Eminem, D12, but these are all people like out of Detroit. And we spent a lot of time at the places that they were at. And we even got into like battle raps with D12. That was before we were Christian, but when we became Christian, we took that same kind of mentality. It's like now we're battling against darkness, and so if you listen to any of our earlier stuff, we're the Mad Prophets. We just talked about things that was going on in our community and how a relationship with God will help you navigate around those things. And so that's what I would say. I mean, God. The navigation that I had through my young years, it set me up for success throughout all my life. I still reap the benefits of the things I experienced as a teenager.
Wonderful.
Wonderful. Even now, I'm 43 years old. So
wonderful.
Yeah.
Great listening to your story, Juan, and I'm going to ask you to take some time and encourage our people. But before we do that, you mentioned that you write children's books.
Yeah.
Could you very briefly touch on that a little bit to see what you've written and what it is about?
Yeah, so my most recent book was it's called Quantum and the Empath, Court of Confusion. I actually co-wrote that with a good friend of mine. And all the books that we write, and it's a series of books.
Yes.
It deals with conflict resolution.
Yes.
And so I think that's an important skill set to have at any age, really. But we target with kids, and we take the characteristics and that you need in conflict resolution. We couch those characteristics as superpowers. So whether it's listening, empathy, things along that nature. We couch it and present it to students as superpowers and saying that, hey, this is something that you can access, right?
Yes.
So that was the first one. Another one is that was the latest one. My first children's book was called The Nugget Snack Shop, Learning How to Make Friends. And so very important, again, I told you how important friendships were to me when I was growing up. And so really showing students like this is, how do you make friends the right way? A lot of times
relatable to be able to connect with people.
Yeah, and so that's what my books usually the children's books that I write usually deal with those type of subject matters.
Wonderful. I want you to look in your camera here, and just in a very brief nutshell, somebody broken, someone discouraged. We call this the Beacon Encourage for this purpose, that whoever comes takes time to speak a word of encouragement to our people, whatever state they may be going through, and just go ahead and do that.
Yeah. So I would say that, as somebody who's always interested in history, God works, throughout history, even our personal history. When I reflect back on the things I experienced as a teenager, I can see, like, man, God was working back then, because I can see, as time progressed, how those things were important and that to influence the rest of my life. Of course, there were other things that happened as I grew older.
Yes.
But I can see, when I sit back and look, I can see in my own personal history how God is working, and that it is His story, right? And so the story is not complete until we die, right? And so and I can say, even after you die, your story goes on to encourage your kids and their kids. You know what I'm saying? So allowing God to be present in your life, to use you, for you to grab hold of the Most High. Whatever's going on with you at the moment, know that it's not the end of the story. You can see how the story can unfold, but as you go through life, you'll always go back and look like, man, I remember God did this. I remember God did that, because again, it is His story, and your story is being unfolded as you live. Whatever is going on at the moment, it may not go on forever. Especially if it's something that you feel is a struggle, and those struggles, even when I think about struggles in my past, it always was for a bigger reason that I was able to see connect as I got older. So so I would just say, man, just be a willing participant in God's story for your life, and then for the young people out there, I would say deciding to live your life for God is not confining you to a life of boredom. When I decided to turn over every aspect of my life to the Most High, I mean, it was a life of adventure. I mean, the people that I've met, the things that I've been able to do. Like I said, I rap before I decided to rap for the Lord. I was rapping just for me, saying whatever. When I decided to rap for the Lord, like, doors open. Like, I met so many people. I was able to record. I was able to tour with people, do shows in different spaces and things like that. And so I wasn't a world-renowned artist, although I do, it's funny, we get messages from Germany, from other places in the world saying how impactful our music was for them. But, I've had the opportunity to use those same skills inside of education. I use hip-hop in the classroom, initiatives that utilize hip-hop. But I've always used it for its, from what I learned on how to use it for God. And so I would say that, and that's just one aspect, but it's so many aspects of how my life was enriched and made, I would say, made adventurous through holding on and turning over my life to the Most High. And so I would encourage every young person, that's listening, like, give Jesus a try, because if you, first of all, to keep your sanity, to keep your years, in a place where you're doing something of importance for the kingdom. I mean, that's something that the world, we talk about the media and stuff. The media may put out like, hey, this is how you should be living, but it's all a facade.
Yes.
The real thing is, what you do for the Lord, how God can use you even as a young person. So
absolutely beautiful. Say that. Great. I'm going to ask you to pray for our young people, and then you'll give us a quick, what I call the parting shot. But on second thought, I think you need to give us a quick wrap. We can't hear
Wrap?
all of this and not hear you roll a little bit. So just take a moment.
Not gonna remember anything.
Take a moment and just pray.
Okay, all right. Our Father who art in heaven, thank you for just the opportunity to be interviewed, to meet Pastor Desire right now, and just to speak with the use of technology to people in other spaces of the world. And hopefully anything that was said today would be encouragement for those listening. And I just ask these blessed in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen.
Oh, man.
Amen.
Do you want to give us what your parting shot would be? The one thing you want people to remember?
So I would say, I would say that living a life dedicated to Jesus is a life. The best way to live is a life of adventure, is a life of purpose, and I would leave that with the people.
Live your life dedicated to Jesus. That's what Juan is saying, and I think that will be the most transformative thing that you'll ever see in your life.
Indeed.
We're gonna keep it there today. You wanna give us a quick wrap?
A quick wrap. All right. It's so funny how much I forget, but
Okay.
let's say, all right.
Yeah.
All right. You can be what you want to be. Just don't be a wannabe. Now let your light so shine so the world can see. And your light will shine most definitely. So you don't have to be a thug because you're from the streets. Your body is a temple. You don't have to be a freak. This goes far deeper than what we all can see. Your life has many more possibilities. Now listen,
sir.
God knows what your call it can be, but it's up to you to make that call and be. You can live life more abundantly. Inspire the hood like Aquila and the bee. Now up you mighty race like Marcus Garvey. Now just think greatness from our streets. Now just think greatness at arm's reach. But just be more than what you see in his arm.
See, you're gonna keep all that away.
Yeah.
Thank you, and thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen. It's the Beacon Encourage. Remember that you are a beacon shining Jesus' light, and I want you to do exactly that wherever you go, and you never forget yet again that we walk by faith and not by sight. So until we see you this time next week, stay blessed and highly favored. We love you and celebrate you deeply. Have yourself a lovely day.